Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Book Creator a Summer Webinar Series. My name is Monica Burns, and I'm hosting our webinar for today, all about digital storytelling with Book Creator. I'd love to hear about some of the folks who are joining us today. So if you can, in the right-hand corner of your screen, those of you joining us live, you'll find the Go To Webinar Control Panel. Find that question box, just type in your name and where you're from, and we'll give some shout outs as we settle in and get started. Welcome Peggy from Phoenix. Welcome Cindy and Stacy, Maria from Iowa, Tanya from Perth. Welcome Cindy from Williamsburg and Casey from Kansas. We've got Megan from Pennsylvania with us here, Cynthia from Indiana, Claudia from Waterloo. Welcome, Maureen from Ontario. Folks from all over joining us today. You can keep those hellos coming in onto the question box. But before we jump into our digital storytelling with Book Creator, I'd love to learn a little bit more about you. So go ahead and share with me, how familiar are you with Book Creator? You can go ahead and choose one of the following responses. Are you a pro? You've used it a few times? Are you totally brand new? It'll help me get a feel and the rest of us get a feel for what everyone is feeling when it comes to Book Creator. So it looks like most of us have voted. About a quarter of you are pros, awesome. About 40% of you have used it a few times, and a little less than 40% of you are brand new. For those of you who are brand new or only use Book Creator a few times, don't worry. I'm going to go through and give you a quick overview, and there's lots of getting started resources. Later this month, we're actually doing a Getting Started with Book Creator on Chrome webinar, so you can have that as a resource as well. And now share a little bit. You can choose more than one answer here in case you work with a wide range of folks, a wide range of students. What grade levels do you teach or do you support? So you can choose more than one if you're working, say, at a district level or at a K-6 school. Which grade levels are you teaching or supporting this year? It looks like most of our votes are in. And remember, this isn't going to add up to 100% that you can vote more than once. It looks like 2/3 of us work with K2, 3/4 for 3-5, a little less than half in 6-8 in middle school, and about a quarter of you working with high school students. Awesome. And now, what subject areas do you teach? And if maybe yours isn't on the list, like you're a media specialist or working in a tech lab, you can go ahead and type that into the question box if that feels like a better type of response. I'll give you another moment to get your votes in. Remember, again, you can choose more than one here if you like. All right, it looks like about 3/4 or maybe a little less, more like 2/3 of us work with English language arts, half for math, science, social studies, and it looked like some of our others are working as speech therapist, art teacher, teacher librarian, digital learning specialist, foreign language. So a nice range of us together today. And our last question is, have you used Book Creator on Chrome before? Some of you may be super familiar with Book Creator on iPads, but have you used Book Creator on Chrome before? Go ahead and share that as well. It looks like most of our votes are in, and about 65% of you have tried it out before on Chrome. Awesome. About a quarter have only used it on iPads. That's awesome too. And a few of you haven't used it before at all, which is great because I'm going to show it off to you on Chrome today. We'll do a live demo in addition to some of our sharing about our big ideas around digital storytelling with Book Creator. So my name is Monica Burns. I'm a Book Creator ambassador. I'm founder of ClassTechTips.com and a former New York City public school teacher. So I taught in a one-to-one classroom, and I've been out of the classroom for a few years, writing and blogging and spending lots of time in other people's classrooms, visiting schools and hosting professional development across the country and in a few different spots internationally as well. So I'm having double duty today of facilitating and hosting the webinar. So you'll be able to see my slides on the side of the screen as I jump around. I'll also be peeking into the question box, and I'll pause a few times. So if you have a question while I'm talking and I don't get to it right away, don't worry. When we pause to talk and chat and try some things out, I'll peek in there and make sure I can address your questions. So you might have joined us on all of the summer webinars so far this summer, or you might want to pencil in a few more dates into July and August. We'll be doing another Getting Started with Book Creator on Chrome webinar. It's a repeat of a live webinar we kicked off in May. You can view that and join us live next week for that one. We also have one on favorite apps to use with Book Creator. That's coming up in August. In August, there'll also be a middle school spotlight and a high school spotlight webinar. So really excited about talking about some ways that you can use Book Creator with your students. And you can sign up for these webinars the same place that you signed up for today's if you're joining us live, or you can head over to bookcreator.com/webinars. When you go there, you'll also see the recordings of our past webinars in the series. We've done a bunch already this summer, and you'll see the registration links for the upcoming webinars as well. So Book Creator is an open-ended creation tool. It can be used to create and publish books, and you can really customize the experience that your students have with book creators depending on the task that you've outlined for them and the type of activity you're looking for them to accomplish. Today, we're talking about digital storytelling, which of course could be cross-curricular as well. So it's really up to you. There's no levels, there's no right way or wrong way to use this tool. It is an open-ended creation tool your kids can use to capture the story of their learning and publish books to share with the world. So you can make all sorts of things with Book Creator: digital portfolios, poetry books, step-by-step guides, science reports, learning journals, comics, which we're going to take a look at today. So there's so many things that you can do to turn students into storytellers across content area, really any time of year. And teachers are using Book Creator in lots of different ways to publish student work, to have kids demonstrate their understanding, to promote collaboration, set a purpose for learning, and even to create a product, an ebook, for an authentic audience so someone else can view and see and learn from the work your students have created. So let's do a quick overview of what you can do with Book Creator. Then we'll talk about digital storytelling, and then we'll get out and I'll give you a live demo so you can see some things as well. So with Book Creator, when you open up Book Creator on Chrome, you just head over to app.bookcreator.com. Now there's some similarities between the Chrome version and the iPad version, but we'll be looking at Chrome screenshots and talking about Chrome today. You can absolutely modify these activities, and a lot of the everything will look really, really similar when you're on an iPad anyhow. So first off, you choose the book shape that you want. We'll look at comics together a little bit later today, but for now we'll choose this landscape because it's great for demoing and it fills up your whole screen. So first you're prompted to add to the cover of your book. Using the plus sign in the upper right-hand side, that's going to be your add button no matter what page you are on. The first button is the import button. That's where you'll be able to add all sorts of things, including images. So you can do a Google image search, you can connect to your Google Drive, or you can choose a file from your computer. So you can see how in this example, I typed in a keyword and a bunch of pictures popped up. The results that are shown are labeled for commercial reuse with modification, so you can feel good about using them in your classroom with your students. Once you choose the one you want and you hit the blue select button, that picture will pop up on your screen. Now, of course, you could upload your own picture too, and you'd follow the same workflow. So here you have the cover with a picture. When the picture is tapped or any type of element you've added to the screen is tapped, then you can move it around and adjust it, spin it with that green button, whatever you want to do. That plus sign at the very top of the screen will also let you use the pen tool. This lets you draw in any color and different widths that you want and pop that drawing right there on the page. And just like the picture, when I tap on it, it has the blue dots all around it. I can spin it, I can resize it, and even drag it right down here to the bottom of my page. I can also use that plus sign to add text, like the text that you've seen here, or I can use the eye inspector button to change the background color, the page as well, like you see in this picture. When you are adding things to your page, you have a lot of options, including the record button, which is built right into Book Creator. So you can hit the plus sign and record to add your voice onto a page. Now, if I'm moving a little bit quickly for you, if you're totally new to Book Creator, on Book Creator's YouTube channel, you'll find a Getting Started with Book Creator on Chrome webinar I did earlier this summer, and we'll host a live one in just next week, at the end of next week. So you can always pencil us in for next week too. Here I've added the shape tool to put a little bit of a shape behind my title. I can layer it so it goes behind my picture. Lots of options there. So why are teachers using Book Creator? Well, it gives kids access to interactive pages, a combination of media, there's accessibility support, and shareable products that kids can show off their learning to just about anyone. So today we are focused on digital storytelling with Book Creator. We'll start off with some tips for digital storytelling, what it is, and how you might use it in your classroom. We'll talk a little bit about using visuals, audio, and text strategically, how you can make sure you're telling a story with fonts and colors. We'll look at some screenshots together so you can get a feel for how you can build a story. I'll ask you to go out and open up your Chrome web browser and play along as we're trying some things out. And then I'll take you out for a live demo so you can see some of the comic book features in action that you might want to thread into the digital storytelling work you do in your classroom. So before we jump in, how do your students tell the story of their learning? So the learning that's happening in the classroom. Go ahead in that question box and tell us, how are they sharing the story of their learning in their classroom? Go ahead and add that in there to the question box to answer our question. How are kids telling the story of their learning? And I'll give some shout outs as I see some of your responses come into that question box. So I see Tina talks about how students are using reflections, maybe on Flipgrid or Seesaw, two tools that are great app smashing tools for Book Creator as well. Susan shared that her students are using visual journals. Cheryl says students can use the audio feature to help them share the story of their learning. Ali mentioned the group presentation students might be taking part in. So lots of ways for students to tell the story of their learning. Well, I want to share a couple examples for you that the folks at Book Creator have spotlighted as great examples of digital storytelling in action. You can see here in this example that there is a page on the screen with our comic book cells. There is a caption, there is talk bubbles and thought bubbles, and a sequence of events. So when we're talking about digital storytelling, you might be combining illustrations students have made, images they've curated or snapped themselves, along with captions and dialogues and great sequence. In this example, you see there's a combination of things happening with a thematic type of font chosen to make sure that students know this is about a mysterious dog. There's a photograph, an image that's popped onto the screen. So lots of things coming together right here on the page of this book. In this example, you'll notice there's a student illustration on the cover of this page. So students can use the pen tool to combine colors and make a drawing, or they might even take an image that they've snapped, that's a picture they drew with crayon on paper, or that they've drawn in another app, and add that to the page as well. In this example, you see just that happening, a picture of a student illustration, right, on paper being spotlighted right here on the cover of a book. In this example, a combination of text layered on top of an image gets ready to tell the story of a special moment that this child is sharing. So when we talk about digital storytelling in the classroom, we're looking at a combination of things: text, images, video, and illustration, a variety of media coming together all in one place to tell a story. So, how is this different than regular old storytelling, right? Something that might happen on paper or pencil or around a campfire. Well, in this case, we're using digital tools to combine a variety of media all together in one place. So, that text, those images, the video and illustrations, all of it can come together using digital tools. And so today, as we look at Book Creator, an awesome ebook tool, you're able to pull in lots of different types of media so students can tell a story digitally. So as we think about fonts and color choices, when students are telling their stories in a digital storytelling environment, they're going to choose background colors, they're going to choose fonts that communicate tone to an audience, that connect to the topic or the theme, that show off the mood of their story, and even bring adjectives to life. So if you're telling a story, your students are telling a story that's a little bit scary, well, they might choose colors that are a little darker, or that might set the tone a little bit more clearly using font that's a little bit more creepy for a mystery, or a little bit more bright and colorful for a shiny, wonderful story about something happy happening. So all of those things can come into play. When you're introducing storytelling into your classroom, you can decide what type of story arcs you want them to be using throughout the school year. You might have students telling stories in sequence, like a first, then, next, finally, or you might have other temporal words that you want students to use to signal the passage of time. Setting students up for success like this might include using graphic organizers or sharing templates, or simply creating a teacher exemplar that incorporates all of these pieces together. You might also use story arcs that use different types of language that you might have your writers using in more traditional activities, or noticing as readers as they read different text. For example, exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution, you name it. This is an opportunity for you to take the expectations that you have for students as writers in your classroom, so that they can use all sorts of multimedia to tell the story of their learning, creating stories with lots of digital components in this awesome ebook creation tool. Now, you might also have other text structure that you want students to explore that might not fall into a narrative category, like cause and effect, problem and solution, compare and contrast, or sequence. All of these things can come to life within Book Creator because you're really giving kids an open ended space where you are guiding them as they get ready to tell a story. So, a question for you again in the question box: what type of writing activities do your students take part in? What are some things that they are writing during the school year that you have done in the past, or that they're going to be doing in an upcoming school year? Go ahead and put your responses right there in the question box. So Stacy mentioned that students might be doing fairy tales as part of their writing. Peggy mentioned students might be doing a choose your own adventure. Michelle mentioned that students might be telling how to's. Cheryl talked about sequence, beginning, middle, and end. Tanya said picture books. Awesome. Susan talked about reflections, and Carolyn about journals. Casey mentioned quick writes. Tom mentioned animal research books. Margaret talked about email students might write, or biographical reports. So lots of writing happening in classrooms already. So as we talk today about what digital storytelling can look like, it includes that text, images, video, and illustration. So let's break down these pieces and take a look at what it looks like in Book Creator. Now, I'm going to encourage you as we go through to open up app.bookcreator.com on a Chrome web browser on your computer side by side so you can play along. If you are using an iPad app, you could also do this on an iPad app today. It just might look a little bit different. So when we talk about text on the page, this might include labels, paragraphs, captions, talk bubbles. There's so many different types of text kids can add. To add text in Book Creator, you're going to hit the plus sign at the top, choose the text button, it's going to pop up for you a text box. Now, this is not going to give you too many options at first. You're going to type in the text really clean and simple. And once you hit done, you can then hit the eye inspector button to make some choices, including if you want it to be centered, if you want a special font or color or shadow. You can see here that I've changed the font and the color here of my title for the monster who saved the day. And then I've pulled it out onto the screen so that it fills up the screen a little bit larger on the cover. So if you haven't already, go ahead and head over to app.bookcreator.com. If this is your very first time using it, you're going to want to make sure to sign in as a teacher. If you sign in as a teacher, you'll be able to do the teacher things we talk about today, which is setting up a library. If you sign out, if your students sign in, they will choose student and they'll have to enter in the special library code that you create for them, which we'll talk about today as well. So go ahead and sign in at app.bookcreator.com, making sure to sign in as a teacher. If you haven't been in there before, it may prompt you to create a library, but once you've done that, go ahead and you try it now. Create a new book and add text to the page and change the font and color. Remember, I chose a purple kind of whimsical font for the monster who saved the day because it wasn't a scary monster story. If you're making a scary story or something that's very, earthy or connected to nature, you would choose colors that are appropriate and fonts that are appropriate. Those are really important pieces when we talk about digital storytelling. So go ahead, create a new book, add text to the page, and change the font and color to connect to your theme. While you do that, I will check to see if you have any questions. Great. So if you're in Book Creator on Chrome, you're going to create your new book and add text to the page, changing the font and color. So all of those are ways that you can change the font and color to make sure that it connects to your theme. Those are really important conversations to have with students when you talk about digital storytelling. You can keep playing along as I go through and share off some more features and how it connects to this idea of digital storytelling in the classroom. So when it comes to adding images to the page, your students might snap their own pictures or they might use curated images. So pictures that they've searched for, that they've found themselves, and that they bring into their book. If a student has snapped a picture, taken a picture with their device, you'll want to make sure that it's in a spot where they can access it so that when they go to add it to their page, they can either have the file saved right on that same device or it's easily connected, it's already saved in their Google Drive or something like that to make the workflow easier. If students are using curated images, they're going to search for images using the Google image search. So here I am back on The Monster Who Saved the Day page. I hit that plus sign again, and here's where I'm going to hit the import button. Now, the import button lets me choose from Google Images, look through the files saved on my computer, or even look in my Google Drive. Now, I typed in monster on the screen and a whole bunch of monsters came out. If you haven't used the Google image search before, you might not know that all of these colors let you filter. Now, I wasn't looking for a monster in any particular color, but if I was looking for a red one or purple one or pink one, I could choose one of these and it would filter the results for me. So if you're having conversations with students about the theme of their book, the mood they want to communicate, and they're doing something that's going to be all within one color scheme, that could be really useful. So here I've gone ahead and tapped this a monster of my choice and hit the select button and it pops it into the page. I can use the blue corner buttons to make it larger. I can use the green button to spin it in one direction or another and use my finger or my trackpad, depending on the type of Chromebook I'm using, to move it across the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and peek to see what questions you have, but I want you to try it. Use the import tool to search for an image and add the image to your page. A question came in while you are adding some pictures to your page, I'll answer some questions. A question came in about students logging into the same book and edit together. Well, just last week we did a webinar all on real-time collaboration in Book Chrome on Book Creator. So if your kids are on Chrome and you have the upgraded version, I'll talk about the different levels of Book Creator before we leave today. If you're using the free trial or the upgraded version, your kids can work on the same book at the same time. Right now, another question came in about Google search on iPad. So right now, the Google image search for Book Creator is just on Chromebooks. It's not on iPads. So on iPads, you'd have to be out in the Safari browser. You'd save the picture that you found and then add it from the photos or from the camera roll. Awesome. So go ahead if you haven't already and add that picture to the page, and I'll keep peeking to see if any more questions come in. So a question came in about color and font size option. When it comes to text, remember, you have to have, I'll just bring back our screenshot. You want to make sure you click on the text itself so it has the blue box around it. Then you hit the eye inspector button, and that will let you change the different fonts and colors. So a question came in about the collaboration feature and then real-time collaboration. Right now, you can get it for a 14-day free trial or with one of the two upgrades, which I'll share a little bit later before we leave today so you have all the info on that as well. So hopefully you added a picture to your page. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about video. So when it comes to adding video to a story your kids are writing, they might be able to use a video that they found online that they have a link to. The way they would do this is by adding text and linking that video's link. So you could tap on it and go watch the video online. Of course, your kids could use the webcam recording. So when they hit the plus sign and they have the camera, they can talk into their device and use that as a video. Or they might have something that they have recorded on the camera as they move around and want to show off a certain area. If they also have video files saved to their device, they can add that too. So two options you'll see here on this drop-down menu. The first one is the import button. So you're not going to search for video the way you search for a picture, but when you hit that import button, you can go to your files or your Google Drive and find the movie file that you have saved, and you can add it to your page. Then when you tap on the video, it'll play for you. The other option is to use the camera button. This uses the webcam on your computer to either take a still image or to record a video. So your students have an option of each one. Next up on our list is illustrations. Now you saw in some of the examples I started off with that you have a couple options. You might have students illustrate on paper and then take a picture and import the picture to their page. You might have them use the pen tool to illustrate and or label something else that's on their page. Or you might have students complete drawings right from within Book Creator so they can sketch on the page. So take a look here. I'm using that plus sign. I hit the draw button for the pen or pen tool, I should say, so I can draw here on the page. When I hit that button, I have the option to change the color and change the width. I can draw anything I want on the screen. Here I've added some emphasis to my title in the color yellow. And when I hit done, it pops up on the page. When I tap on that yellow squiggly line, I'll get blue dots on each corner so I can make it smaller or larger or move it around the page. Now, while I take a peek at some questions that have come in, go ahead and use the pen tool to add a drawing to your page. Don't be afraid, right? Play with the colors and the pen width to make something really special. All right, so let's see what questions have come in. Tom asked about the comic book option. We're going to go out online in just a moment. You're going to start from the beginning and choosing a comic book from the get-go, and then you'll have access to the cells, all the emphasis, and everything special there too. Cheryl asked about adding a link. So when you are using the text tool, when you're typing in the text itself, you have the link option. I'll scroll back up so that you can see it here on the screen while you're using the pen tool. So as I was typing in this initial text before I got fancy and changed the font and the color, I could use this link button to link the text to somewhere else. So if you have a special video students have created that they want to link to, they can say, click here to see my video, highlight it, and add the link to that piece of text. So that's going to be your big way of doing that as well. So as you use the pen tool, think about the type of colors or the emphasis you might want to place on something, all really important parts of digital storytelling, right? Connecting to the colors, getting the mood across, and really making sure the audience understands what you're trying to communicate. So you can keep playing around, but I want you now in the question box, those of you joining us live, to type in what features would you want your students to use in their ebook? Would you want them snapping pictures of illustrations, creating videos of them talking into the screen? Would you want your students to search for images or only use their own? What type of features do you see as compelling for your kids as they talk about their learning when it comes to digital storytelling with lots of different media? So what features are really jumping out at you that you would want students to use in their ebooks? So Margaret mentioned adding video clips and original art. Carolyn mentioned videos as well. Casey said that they'd like students to use all of them, but not at the same time. Agreed, right? You might pace your students or have different expectations for different pages. Michelle mentioned voice recordings. Awesome, adding images. I really like how Scott placed some emphasis there on taking photos of their work and recording reflections. So many different things that you can do. So I want to talk a little bit about comic books on Book Creator because it's such a popular way for students to tell a story. So when we talk about digital storytelling, one of the really cool things about Book Creator is the option to create comic books. Now, comic books might seem like they're a little bit silly or they're not rooted in your instructional goals, but let me tell you, comic books are an awesome way to get kids thinking about sequence, dialogue, sights, and sounds. So everything that has to do with setting, with characters talking about what's going on. They have to make some important decisions as writers and authors of comic books. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to take you through a live demo, and I want you to stay on the lookout for some of the special comic book features that you might want to bring into your classroom. So right now I'm out here on my Chrome web browser. I'm in my books library, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new book. Now, this is where I decide, do I want to make a comic? And absolutely, today I'm going to go ahead and make a comic. So this is my cover. Looks kind of the same as before, but what's special here is when I hit the plus sign, I have a different option. Before, I just had media and shapes. Now I have the comic button. So I can choose panels that I want to go on the back of my cover. I can hit the plus sign again, and I can add speech, thought, text, or stickers, you name it. When I come out here, I can also hit the eye inspector button, and I have different options than I did before when it comes to building your book. I have all these comic friendly backgrounds that I can choose. I'm deciding on what kind of story I want to tell. Maybe it's like a outer space type of comic book and I want to connect it to that. Maybe it's more of a magical underwater adventure or a traditional comic book. So I can choose that. Now, each of these are set so that it fills up the cell. I can either snap a picture or I can use this button to do a picture search like before. So maybe we're sticking with our monster theme. I can go ahead and click a monster here, and I'll add my same monster as before so you can get a feel for how you can still go ahead and use some of the same features. Now I'm going to go ahead and drag my monster down here. I'm going to make him a little bit smaller so you see him kind of like waving from behind there. Now I can go back to my plus sign, and maybe I'm ready to add a speech bubble, thought, text, or stickers. I'm going to go ahead to text first. This lets me add a caption. So I might start off with something like, on a bright and sunny afternoon and have that ready to go right here, down here at the bottom, something that your students might be used to seeing when they are reading lots of different comic books. So I can do all sorts of moving everything around, making sure it's just right. I can also go back up here to text and get some of my traditional kind of comic book things that you might be used to, like my wow type of button, and pull that in here and have that ready to go as well. So here you'll see I can switch the panels. I can add speech bubbles. I can also add thought bubbles, as well as the text that we looked at with these options, as well as stickers. So lots of really fun things that I can add and resize and spin around so they fit just right on the page. You'll still see all the same awesome features as before with our media, as well as with the shapes, but the special things here in the comic book section can absolutely help your students as they tell the story of their learning. So let's come back out here to our slide deck for today, now that you got a feel for what comic books looks like in action. Now you saw a little bit on my screen, and this is important for teachers on Chromebooks who are launching Book Creator and having all their students be part of their Book Creator class. You can have a shared library where all of your students can share their work, teachers can review student progress, and feedback can be given in real time. So you'll see here on this page, I have my books, and I've got 2 libraries that I created, 2 libraries I'm a part of. I can hit my little 3 dots here and get a special code, and students can join my library. That way I can see all of their work. So when you're working on Chrome with your students, it's really important, right? You invite them to the library so you can see all of their work. So what are some types of stories that you might bring into your classroom when you're using digital storytelling? Well, in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, or 10th or 11th or 12th grade, your students are writing narratives. They have persuasive writing activities, informational writing activities, both in English language arts and across content areas. But it's so important to connect to your standards and learning goals. All the different types of writing that students are taking part of can be transformed into digital storytelling learning experiences. So it's a fantastic way for you to pull in a traditional set of writing expectations that you have for students, connect to your standards and your learning goals, and make sure that you are in a space that students can combine a lot of different media and tell the story of their learning, both in a traditional kind of narrative, once upon a time type of format, as well as persuasive and informational writing. So let's go ahead, and I want to make sure I have time to answer your questions. So I'll go through a couple things first. I know a few people asked about collaboration. So in the free version of Book Creator, you as a teacher sign in, you create your one library, and your kids can make up to 40 books. So your library will hold 40 books. That's awesome if you're just trying it out and your kids are going to create just 1 or 2 books in your account. Now, if you want to do the real-time collaboration, if you want to have more libraries or more books, there's the ability to upgrade to their 180 or 1000 plans. If you're looking for a larger kind of school rollout or purchase, or you have questions about upgrading, you can send an email to sales@bookcreator.com, and they'll be able to help you out with all of those pieces. So I know there were some questions coming in as I was doing the comic book live demo, so I want to take a peek right here and make sure I've got a chance to answer all of your questions. Let's see. So there was a question that came in with the Google image search and copyright. So the Google image search will search for photos that are labeled as ready for commercial use with modification. And you see that right underneath your Google search when you type in your search term. When it comes to design tips and getting kids started, thinking about so a question came in about some design tips. If you are having students work on a particular skill as storytelling tellers, like sequence, I highly encourage you to play around with comic books and get students focused with words like first, then, next, and finally. If you are looking for students to create a collaborative book, well, where you want all of their pages to fit in a certain theme, you might have some expectations that students all use a similar color palette, or they're all using pictures of their own illustrations, and setting some norms like that as well. So a question came in about how many books can be made in the free version. So 40 books can be made in the free version. You can delete ones if you're finished with them, but that's going to be the smaller packages in the free version as well. A question came in about the patterns for Book Creator for comic book. So you see how the background here has the special panel. I'll show you right here. I'm going to go to a new page so you can see me start from scratch. I go to the plus sign, comics, and I hit panels. Now remember, you had to choose a comic book when you first started your book. Otherwise, you won't see this option. So I can choose the panels, and right now they're just boring plain in the background. So if I want to add to the back of the page, I hit the eye inspector button, and here's where my awesome comic book options come in. So I have that as an option for adding that in as well. So another question came in about using rubrics or evaluating digital storytelling. When I talk about digital storytelling in the classroom and setting expectations for students, I encourage you to first take a look at the rubric that you've always used for a special assignment. So what are your expectations for a piece of narrative writing? What are your expectations for a piece of persuasive writing? Remember, the technology is layering on top of this and giving kids ways to meet your expectations. So before, when your expectation was to tell a story with a descriptive language, well, your kids can still do that, but now they might use the audio or video tool to accomplish that goal. You may want to add an extra row onto your traditional rubrics that have to do with clarity, so students speaking clearly when they record their voice, or that have to do with presentation, so students choosing colors that connect to their theme, things they wouldn't have done traditionally on paper in the past. But if you are layering on those expectations on a rubric, make sure you're showing students great examples and instructing and thinking aloud and showing them how you go through that process as well. Um, so let's see. Another question came in about app smashing. We're actually going to do an app smashing webinar really soon, all about app smashing in August. So yep, you can app smash with Seesaw, and then you can have students share the books that they create with Seesaw. You'd probably want them to publish it with a link. So I'll show you what that looks like here. So if I finish my books and I come back out to my library here, I could go to the share button. I could publish it online. I'm going to give my book a title, my monster book, and publish the book. So the question came in about Seesaw. So if I want to copy this public link, right? Then I could paste it into Seesaw and share it there so students could comment on each other's or give feedback as well. So that's probably that option you might want to explore. A question came in about high school students using this tool. Well, there's a new book by Michael Hernandez, who's another book creator ambassador. You can find it on Book Creators blog. So if you head over to their page and you hit on the education and you find their blog there at bookcreator.com, you'll see his new ebook that's all about using Book Creator with high school students. So absolutely appropriate for high school students as well. So a few things before we wrap up today. These are the next 3 webinars. We have 4 more on the calendar. For this summer, you can watch the recordings of the past webinars and even share this recording once it's up. It'll go to Book Creator's YouTube channel, or you can access it by going to bookcreator.com/webinars. So getting started with Book Creator on Chrome is coming up next week. This is a repeat. We're doing it live, but you can also watch that video recording on Book Creator's YouTube channel. Favorite apps to use with Book Creator, including Seesaw and Flipgrid, and some of the ones you mentioned today. We'll be doing this in August. Then Middle School Spotlight with 5-8 classrooms as our focus will be in August. And right after that, we'll be doing a high school one too. So if high school is one that's of interest for you, absolutely check out the ebook that's available on Book Creator's website, all about using Book Creator in high school classrooms, and join us for that webinar. So there's a couple other free ebooks that you you can find on Book Creator's website as well. 50 Ways to Use Book Creator in Your Classroom combines ideas from lots of different Book Creator ambassadors. I wrote a book for the folks at Book Creator on 15 ways to use Book Creator for reading responses. You can find that on Book Creator's website as well. And as you start diving in, head over to Facebook. Facebook.com/groups/book creator is a special Facebook group for anyone excited about using Book Creator in the classroom. And of course, you can go to Twitter at Book Creator app. Hashtag book creator. You could always ping me at Class Tech Tips or send me an email, Monica at Class Tech Tips too. We're all so excited to see what types of things you and your students create with Book Creator this year. So I hope you'll head over to those wonderful social spaces, share some ideas, share some student products that you're making, and keep those questions coming. So thank you all so much for joining us today. I hope you'll join us for a future summer webinar.